In the opening moments of Godzilla 2014, directed by Gareth Edwards, the scene is set in 1954 when the United States military witnesses an unusual nuclear test. Unbeknownst to the public, this was not a standard bomb trial, but rather an attempt to kill a prehistoric alpha predator known as Godzilla. Deep in the Pacific Ocean, Godzilla briefly emerges before being engulfed by a nuclear explosion. The world remains unaware of the creature's existence, and the event is buried in secrecy. Fast forward to 1999, Project Monarch scientists Dr. Ishiro Serizawa, Ken Watanabe, and Vivian Graham, Sally Hawkins, are dispatched to a collapsed uranium mine in the Philippines. Within the rubble, they discover a colossal skeleton of a creature similar to Godzilla and two enormous spores. One spore remains dormant, while the other appears to have hatched recently, with a trail leading out to sea. This discovery raises alarm, hinting at the potential re-emergence of ancient monsters. Meanwhile, in Japan, the Janjira nuclear power plant, supervised by Joe Brody, Bryan Cranston, experiences strange seismic activity. Joe's wife, Sandra, leads a team of technicians into the reactor to investigate. However, a sudden tremor breaches the reactor, releasing lethal radioactive steam. Despite Joe's desperate attempt to close the containment door and save his wife, Sandra and her team are trapped inside, and the plant ultimately collapses. The event is classified as a catastrophic meltdown, though Joe suspects something more sinister. In 2014, Joe and Sandra's son, Ford Brody, Aaron Taylor Johnson, now a U.S. Navy explosive ordnance disposal officer, returns home to San Francisco after a long tour of duty. He reunites with his wife, Elizabeth Olsen, and the young son, Sam. However, their family time is cut short when Joe is arrested in Japan for trespassing in the quarantined Janjira zone. Ford reluctantly flies to Japan to bail out his estranged father. Joe, obsessed with uncovering the truth behind the disaster, persuades Ford to accompany him back to their old home to retrieve vital research data. To their shock, they find the area devoid of any radiation, contrary to official reports. As they retrieve the data, they are caught by military personnel and taken to a secret facility built around the ruins of the power plant. At the facility, Serizawa and Graham are monitoring a massive chrysalis that had been feeding on the plant's reactor for 15 years. Suddenly, the chrysalis cracks open, releasing a giant winged creature later identified as a MUTO, massive unidentified terrestrial organism. The MUTO emits a powerful electromagnetic pulse, EMP, disabling all electronic equipment in the vicinity and wreaking havoc as it escapes. During the chaos, Joe is critically injured and later succumbs to his wounds, leaving Ford devastated. Serizawa, Graham, and Ford join a U.S. Navy task force led by Admiral William Stenz, David Strathairn, aboard the USS Saratoga. Serizawa reveals the existence of Godzilla, a creature awakened by nuclear activity in the 1950s. Contrary to the belief that nuclear tests were aimed at developing weapons, they were actually attempts to kill Godzilla. Serizawa believes that Godzilla maintains a natural balance and may be the key to stopping the MUTO. The MUTO's rampage continues as it attacks and feeds on a Russian nuclear submarine, dragging it ashore in Hawaii. Ford, stranded at Honolulu International Airport, witnesses the ensuing battle. Godzilla arrives, heralded by a massive tsunami that devastates Waikiki. The two titanic creatures briefly clash before the MUTO escapes by flying off. Godzilla, unfazed, continues his pursuit across the Pacific. As the military scrambles to contain the situation, the scale of the threat becomes apparent. The MUTO is not merely a single, isolated creature, there's evidence suggesting that it is communicating with another creature. Serizawa explains that the MUTOs are ancient parasites that have evolved to feed on radiation, which is why they are drawn to nuclear energy sources. He also theorizes that Godzilla, being a natural predator of the MUTOs, will instinctively hunt them down to restore balance. While the military regroups, another crisis unfolds. At a nuclear waste repository in Nevada, a second MUTO, much larger and wingless, emerges. This new creature is revealed to be female. Scientists deduce that the MUTOs are communicating through echolocation and intend to meet and reproduce. The female MUTO devastates Las Vegas, prompting the military to hatch a risky plan. Admiral Stenz proposes using nuclear warheads to lure the monsters into the ocean and destroy them. Despite Serizawa's objections, the plan proceeds. Ford volunteers to assist the military in transporting the warheads by train. En route, the train is ambushed by the female MUTO, which devours several warheads. One intact warhead is airlifted to San Francisco, where the monsters are converging. The male MUTO intercepts the warhead and brings it to the female, who forms a nest around it in downtown San Francisco. Godzilla arrives at the Golden Gate Bridge, where a tense standoff with the military ensues. Ignoring Serizawa's plea to let Godzilla handle the MUTOs, the military opens fire, inadvertently allowing the MUTOs to regroup. With the city in peril, a strike team, including Ford, is deployed via halo jump to retrieve and disable the warhead. The ensuing battle between Godzilla and the MUTOs is a spectacular display of raw power. Godzilla, using its immense size and strength, grapples with both MUTOs, attempting to keep them from reaching the nuclear warhead. Despite being outnumbered, Godzilla fights relentlessly, demonstrating its role as the apex predator. The male MUTO, using its wings to stay mobile, repeatedly attacks Godzilla from the air, while the female MUTO uses brute strength to engage Godzilla head-on. Nathan and Gia work desperately to revive Kong, whose heartbeat grows faint. Using her HEAV's engines as a makeshift defibrillator, Nathan jolts Kong back to life. Empowered, Kong joins the fray, teaming up with Godzilla to battle their mutual foe. At a critical moment in the fight, Godzilla manages to seize the male MUTO mid-flight and hurls it into a skyscraper, causing a massive collapse that crushes the creature. With one opponent down, Godzilla turns its attention to the female MUTO. The two engage in a brutal struggle, with Godzilla using its iconic atomic breath to gain the upper hand. Meanwhile, Ford's team successfully transports the warhead out to sea. However, the female MUTO, sensing the destruction of her nest and the loss of her mate, becomes enraged and pursues the boat. Ford narrowly escapes as Godzilla intervenes, using its tail to knock the MUTO aside. In a final, climactic moment, Godzilla unleashes a concentrated blast of atomic breath down the female MUTO's throat, obliterating it from within. Exhausted and heavily wounded, Godzilla collapses amidst the ruins of the city. With the immediate threat neutralized, the military begins evacuation and rescue operations. Ford, having survived the harrowing ordeal, reunites with Elle and Sam at an emergency shelter. The emotional reunion is a poignant moment, underscoring the human cost of the monumental battle that has just taken place. As dawn breaks over the ruined city, news broadcasts capture footage of Godzilla lying motionless amid the wreckage. Many assume that the mighty creature has perished from its injuries. However, in a dramatic turn, Godzilla stirs, rises to its feet, and lets out a triumphant roar. The crowd, initially fearful, watches in awe as Godzilla slowly makes its way back to the ocean. Serizawa, watching from a distance, remarks that Godzilla has restored balance, fulfilling its role as nature's guardian. The media dubs Godzilla the King of the Monsters, acknowledging its crucial role in preventing a greater catastrophe. Despite the destruction wrought upon San Francisco, there is a sense of gratitude among the survivors for Godzilla's intervention. As the creature disappears beneath the waves, the world is left to ponder the existence of such ancient and powerful beings. Godzilla 2014 masterfully blends human drama with colossal monster action, delivering a gripping tale of survival, sacrifice, and nature's untamable power. Gareth Edwards' vision of Godzilla pays homage to the franchise's roots while introducing a new generation to the awe-inspiring might of the King of the Monsters. The film's portrayal of Godzilla as a force of nature, neither inherently good nor evil, adds depth to the narrative and leaves audiences reflecting on humanity's place in the natural order. With stunning visuals, intense action sequences, and a compelling story, Godzilla 2014 stands as a worthy addition to the legendary franchise. The film not only revitalizes the iconic monster but also sets the stage for future installments in the burgeoning monsterverse, promising more epic battles and thrilling adventures to come.